Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. This week's guest is Everett, Junkala, a very, very well-educated person about vehicles. He has a podcast called Auto Looks. Checked a couple of his episodes out and they were awesome. Everything was awesome about it. We had a very good conversation just about electric vehicles, how he got the idea to do a podcast, why he likes the podcast, and just an all-around cool guy. I hope to have him back on the podcast soon, and I hope you all enjoy this episode. See you on the next one. Well, Everett, welcome to the podcast, the host of the Auto Looks podcast. And
Yep.
when I first started listening to this, I was very interested because it was the first episode I did was the Barbie episode. And I really like how you did a deep dive on this, and I'm really interested on where you came up with creative thought process to put this podcast together.
Like from
ground
from
ground zero.
From ground zero?
Yeah.
It was actually a guy I worked with.
Mm-hmm.
It's a day job. He had a buddy that did podcast. I had done, video a long time ago, kind of like the beginning of YouTube. So I was there when it started and didn't pan out too well. Tried it again a few years later.
What was your first YouTube about?
My very first one
Yeah.
was kind of like the stuff from my website. It's just rating exterior designs and cars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I decided to just talk about it instead of just writing about it. But
So you were rating vehicles?
yes.
Okay. And so where did it go from there?
From there, well, I guess you could say it's been a long journey. Podcast idea just came along because like I love to talk about cars and like to get into it, and I get a lot of great ideas, and I just kind of like
roll with
you
it.
could say my podcast says all top of mind and kind of unrehearsed, unscripted, unedited in a sense.
Mm-hmm. So I have a lot of friends that are into cars too, and I am into cars. I like newer models with all the electronics and what they can do and all this kind of stuff. And I've always wanted to ask a sincere gearhead, if you will, what is your biggest fascination about cars? Or your biggest fascination, like that one thing that you could tell me that was it for you.
Well, I guess my big thing to get me into it was my dad's Mustang.
Mm-hmm.
He still has the very first car he ever bought.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing that.
What is it?
1970 Mustang Grande.
Ooh, good choice.
Yeah,
good choice.
Currently in pieces. We're trying to put it back together, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the space, and he's got other cars filled up in his garage. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing the podcast?
This would be the 5th season. Just started the 5th season.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. And so have you done a dive on the my favorite truck is the Dodge Ram, and I've always wanted to have a deep dive done on the Dodge Ram. Have you ever thought about doing a Ram episode?
Uh, I did one about the brand, how
Yeah.
basically the Dodge Ram became its own brand and how
Mm-hmm.
they separated about why FCA kind of separated the Ram brand out, but on its own pickup truck. Besides kind of getting into a bit of it there, and I did an article years ago about the rebirth of the Dodge Dakota, which they've been considering for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of had something into it, but it's something I'm kind of piecing together for an episode for the future.
The reason why I love Dodge Ram is because of the movie Twister.
Yeah, yeah, I got
So
a lot of people into it with that the
yeah.
transport inspired design from the
Mm-hmm.
90s.
Mm-hmm. Now, what generation of Ram was that?
Oh, was what the
The third
third or fourth, I
generation?
believe. Yeah, because before that, there really wasn't much of a change between what they had in the 70s and 80s,
Mm-hmm.
but it's slight variations of it. So
Mm-hmm. So, I listened to your Ford Ranger episode, and
yeah,
I do like the Ford Rangers too. They were always a nice little compact truck, and they're very reliable too. I still
yeah,
see plenty of them. And Ford just started remanufacturing the Ranger for some reason.
yeah. Well, they never got rid of it globally. They had
Yeah,
it
I remember you
out
saying that in the
around the world.
podcast. Yeah.
So it was just mid-sized market kind of died out in North America.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was kind of getting out of it. Toyota and Nissan stuck it out for the long haul, but the big three kind of pulled out
Mm-hmm.
just because everybody was getting into the bigger trucks
Mm-hmm.
and bigger SUVs. So they kind of retracted from it, but then they started realizing that the Tacoma's starting to sell good, the Nissan Frontier still sound good, and that market's getting kind of big. And like even now, they're looking at the crossover utility truck market, like the Ford Mavericks and that. And I know they just released the Rampage down in Brazil. It's going to be hitting South America markets, but there's the possibility they could be bringing it here.
Really?
Yeah,
What the Ram Rampage? You say?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I'll have to look into that. Sorry if you hear my dog drinking water. She's a 115 pound Saint Bernard, and
uh,
you can hear her drinking water throughout the whole apartment complex. But anyway,
yeah.
um, anyway, so what inspired you to get onto this podcast kind of idea?
Well, for myself, like I said, it's I love to talk
Yeah.
and coming up with the ideas. It's just another way for me to get my voice across.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind writing stuff. I can write stuff like you read some of the stuff on my website when I put the podcast up. Like that's pretty much written that morning as I post it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's it comes to me pretty quick once I get started. I just get right into it,
Mm-hmm.
and I just kind of like talking. I always used to apply to a lot of jobs trying to get into doing radio
Mm-hmm.
because I talk, and as I've been known in my family and across all my friends, I'm the guy that never shuts up. I'm the shy, quiet guy when you first get to know me, but the
Yeah.
second you get me to open up, I just don't shut up. So
Mm-hmm.
I felt, hey, it's probably a good medium for myself if I just don't want to shut up about cars.
Hey, and it's a great subject to get into because fuel consumption these days have been, well, at least the fuel prices have been going nuts lately. And here in Colorado, it's like $4 a gallon. How much is it at
Yeah.
where you live?
We are well in Canada, so we're $1.72 a liter right now.
Oh, okay.
So
That's right. Almost all of the world uses a metric system,
yeah.
except for like 3 countries that use the standard, which is so. Well, is that a high price for you, or
For myself, yeah.
okay?
Like let's see, when I turned 16, I was kind of dating myself. It was what, 99?
Mm-hmm.
98, 99? Yeah, I can't remember. But that was 42 cents a liter when I first time I filled up.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm paying $1.72, so
Yeah.
quite a jump. And just in like the past decade, really, it's gone over a dollar and stayed over a dollar a liter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I always hear from um, we get family in Great Britain, and you hear from them, and you're paying well over $2 a liter over there for the
Ooh.
longest time, and it's like,
Ooh.
yeah, I know,
Mm.
but
Mm. I'm really digging that shirt you got on.
yeah, I got one for Nintendo, one for PlayStation. I got a whole whack of them.
So, what has been your favorite episode to do so far?
Uh, hmm, I don't know. I've kind of had a lot of good favorite ones that I really liked. The one that kind of just I kind of just came up with a great idea for it and just ran with it last minute, and it became, I guess, my host site for getting it out to a lot of them was Podbeam, and they that one every week it always seems to rate high as the one about Cheech and Chong and lowrider culture.
Mm-hmm.
Just going back and through the movies and seeing how that culture is just kind of they helped inspire it, but the whole premise of me making that one was the day I released it was the day that marijuana became legal in Canada. I decided to do a 420 episode
That's
for the day it was
right.
legal.
So I
You
video game
know,
with a couple guys from Canada, and they said that you can just order it online and it gets sent
yep,
to you.
yep.
Man,
Ordered online, and there's tons of stores.
man. Now
Yeah,
here in Colorado, it's legal statewide, and there's stores all over the place, but we can't order it online yet. Not like
yeah,
well, maybe I really haven't. Well, probably. I don't see why not.
yeah.
But anyway, that's still pretty cool though. Anyway, what has been a big pinnacle for you to say? Have you ever had any let's kind of put this down for a little bit and come back to it later kind of thoughts going through your podcast?
Like a big pinnacle moment for it.
Yeah, like that pinnacle, yeah, your pinnacle moment.
Uh, I guess that'd be last year because I'm part of the podcast academy as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and last year, I was invited to do some ratings for some of the podcasts, and
Mm-hmm.
then when you're part of the TPA, you can get invited to go to the Ambies as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was kind of a big pinnacle thing. The biggest part about that is, they put a call out for anybody part of it if you wanted to just do a little talk about it. And if you actually go back and watch the Ambies last year, I'm the third person that's actually appeared on their when they talk to all the regular podcasters. They have the two hosts that are there at that point, and then it goes to like just the regular amateur people, and I popped up. It's like, whoa, I'm there,
Yeah.
not there, but there.
Yeah. I mean that's pretty big. That's really big.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
awesome. Congratulations, man.
yeah.
So
Well,
do you
see you
do
there someday.
oh, I'm hoping one day. Like I
Yeah,
really want this podcast to buy me $1 million house. Like that's a goal.
yeah.
That's a goal. Um well, I just lost my question. I had it sitting here. So how often do you record?
For myself, I'll go on like a binge at least once or twice a month.
Mm-hmm.
I have tons of ideas. I still have like tons of them, even from 5 years ago when I started it, that I wrote down that I haven't even gotten to yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go through them. I'll make all my points. Some of the history ones take a little bit longer going back and doing research of them. And
Mm-hmm.
like I say, about twice a month at least. And I'll go out and I'll usually create at least 4 or 5 in one shot.
Mm-hmm. So you just sit down and do 4 or 5 podcasts at a time? Did you freeze? Did you freeze? Hello? Oh, hey,
Oh,
welcome back.
right.
So we'll edit this out at this part, and so you normally do about 4 or 5 podcasts in one shot.
Yeah.
Man, that's a lot of patience. That's
Yeah.
And
That's like I said. Once I get going, it's like I can't stop. So,
yeah, yeah. So do you tinker around with cars? Do you have a shop yourself?
uh, yeah, I've always had a garage.
Mm-hmm.
Both houses I've owned, I've had a garage, and I'd say I did a lot more work on vehicles in my last house just because they're a lot cheaper vehicles. I got into doing body work myself
Mm-hmm.
for a long time and minor repairs and that, oil changes, changing suspension, you know, not super hard things, but yeah, I tinker around and I have a little miniature 5 speed out in my garage I play around with. I was doing body work and customizing it, but really I've gotten to the point where it's like, nah, it's just a 5 speed. It's fun to have.
Mm-hmm. Body work is an interesting thing to do. I did it when I was in high school, and to get the lines and get the perfection and where you don't see where the bondo is or where you sand it down, that was a challenge for me.
Yeah.
That was a challenge.
Yeah, it's always been kind of an iffy.
Yeah.
I started this year doing some work on my car, and you know, I'll get at it for a few days, and then it's just like, well, it's just a project car. I'm not really doing much. And then
Yeah.
it's like a week or two off, and then get back to it. It's like,
Yeah.
okay. I've
Like,
gotten to the point where I just on that final little bit of sanding to get it nice and smooth. But
mm-hmm. Do you like doing body work and stuff like that?
I do when I
Yeah.
have the time to do it. It's calming,
Mm-hmm.
and like I always thought, for myself why I was pretty decent at it. My dad was did drywall work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he got laid off from one of the mining companies here when I was around the time I was born, so he started his own drywall business. So got pretty good at it, and I started realizing, body work and drywall really not a whole heck of a lot of difference between the two of them.
No, there ain't.
So
No, there ain't.
uh,
Nice smooth edges.
yep.
I once ran into a body guy. He was shaky when he was doing pinstripes, but as soon as he had about 3 or 4 beers at lunchtime, you can get him, and he just smoothed it right out. It was just nice and smooth, and it was always geez, that's really interesting for me. It really is.
Yeah.
And I've never met a body guy who, like an actual body man, does work at a shop who's not a stoner.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of different
And me
views.
too. I used to work at a body shop, and I smoked a lot of weed during there. So yeah.
Now, my neighbors always used to find it weird when I come out and I'm in my coveralls, got my suit on, and I'm doing body work. So I got gloves on and I
Mm-hmm.
got a full face mask coming out of the garage. It's like, I'm not making meth. I'm doing body work.
Like,
Okay.
trust me, there's no Walter White situation going on around here.
Yeah.
Um. So when does the time to sit when you sit down to yourself and say, "Hey, I need to get my things in order for this next episode." What is your thought process of doing that?
But like getting sit down with one, trying to go through all the stuff.
Yeah.
For me, it's not really a sit down. It's like pretty much ideas just come to me. Like, um, I actually freaked my boss out. The Barbie one I just previously did.
Mm-hmm.
The idea came to me actually when I went with my family to go see the movie, and I was talking about it with him at work. I had this great idea, and then throughout the day, I just start writing down, jotting down little bits of things, and then
Mm-hmm.
start thinking about things. And it's like, well, I need a date for that, and do a little research, and gonna go through there. I know before when I had a lot of ideas, if it's like I'm at home or I have time at lunch,
Mm-hmm.
I'll actually go and I'll write down my few points of where I want to start, and then I'll just start going through and finding all the websites. Like I said, with my personal site, I have so many links on those companies and all the information, so I can just find everything so easily and go through and make sure I get all the proper information, piece it together, and then after that, it's just going through that file and making sure it's all in a proper order
Mm-hmm.
before I start talking about it.
Was there anything about the Barbie episode that you thought was very interesting?
Uh, I think the one thing, if you listen to it, I get a little excited about is, and the release at the Chicago Toy Convention when they made the Michael Schumacher Formula One car.
Mm-hmm.
I never even knew that existed.
Mm-hmm.
When I found out about that doing the research, it's like, holy crap. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I thought it was pretty interesting on how many different cars Barbie went through.
Yeah.
Like, you would think that something like that big and pinnacle would stick to one brand,
Yep.
but
Yeah, everybody, like I said, everybody thinks about it, and you think Barbie's Corvette. It's like,
yeah,
well, it's a few more.
yeah,
Even I was surprised when I started finding out about some of the other ones. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know she had that.
yeah. Like the minivan, like Barbie doesn't even have kids.
Uh, Hell, the Ford Escape,
Yeah,
like
even the
the
Ford
original Ford
Escape.
Escape. I'm like, whoa, that okay.
Yeah, like not very Barbie-ish, but hey, you throw some pink on it, we'll be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where is the next episode gonna go? I'm already interested. Can you give us a
Uh, for
sneak
my
peek?
for myself, I have two that I'll have to get to editing before next Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting in the wings. Be either another one about the EV industry,
Mm-hmm. Now, what do
or
you think about the EV industry and where's it gonna go?
for myself, right now, it's going through, like I said in one of my previous ones, it's going through that massive growth stage
Mm-hmm.
where they have a lot of issues with all the charging stations.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the growth stage, kind of like it's essentially we're going through what the automobile industry did 100 years ago, going through the growth stage.
Mm-hmm.
Just back then, there's social media or lots of news coverage about all these things. The EV industry right now, to me, seems like a lot of the things that they've been trying to hold back are starting to get unraveled. It's starting to come out that they really don't. A lot of them don't get the mileage they're saying. Of course, we've all known that. Even with internal combustion engine cars, it's like whatever's on the sticker is, as per a test facility, not
Yeah.
real world.
There's two things in this world that's not gonna tell you the exact truth, and that's your gas meter and your cell phone
Yeah,
power.
yeah,
And I feel like the EV is gonna be the same way. Like it's
yeah.
not 68%.
Yeah.
So, are you a big fan of electric vehicles?
I would say yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
I We're in North America. It's a lot of our power still comes from fossil fuels. They want to try and get to a green world, and a lot of the stuff that goes into making the batteries still comes from third world nations. Like I know where I am, there's still lots of fights to try and get all these new mines opened up to actually get you know sustainable materials for the batteries and that, and then recycling the batteries is still becoming a hot topic. Actually, about 3.5 hours away from me is the uh, North America's only sanctioned lithium, or is it lithium? No, cobalt refinery
Mm-hmm.
from Electric Battery Services.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're building a recycle facility on site too. So, because I know percent of the battery is recyclable, and until we get to that point, it's still,
Mm-hmm.
what do we do with the end product?
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah,
So, what does the cobalt actually do?
cobalt goes into making batteries.
Mm-hmm. Like, is it a main component of the batteries or?
Yeah, it's part of the battery process.
Okay.
So essentially, you can get either cobalt, lithium,
So
manganese.
the cobalt just acts like the lithium then.
Yeah, it's like a precursor material for the
Okay.
full battery.
Okay. All right. Uh, I'd have to say with all the EVs coming out, I'm still a big fan of the Teslas, and I know it's like Tesla, Tesla, Tesla,
Yeah,
but that Cybertruck is a good looking truck. I'm gonna say
yeah,
it now. Like,
yeah. I'm still kicking myself for not putting myself on the list to get one because it's
mm-hmm.
like, I may not have been able to afford it, but for how long it's taken to come out, I probably could have stocked some money away for it.
Yeah, yeah, and like the first Cybertruck just rolled off the assembly line here a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
It's like I'm seriously looking forward to it. But I think I'm gonna treat it like technology. Just kind of wait a couple generations, let them work all
Yeah,
the bugs out.
It's like my thing. I always tell people when you buy a new vehicle, especially if it's on a new platform, it's you gotta wait the 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I own the newer RAV4s. I got it the second year it came out. But if
Mm-hmm.
you actually look back at it, 2019 was like one of the worst years because they first year the 8-speed transmission.
Mm-hmm.
But 2020, I kind of took a chance on it. Usually I wait 3 years. The 3 years. The other trick is odd number years tend to have more issues,
Mm-hmm.
which is a weird thing.
Really?
And yep,
It's always been
yep,
on the odd years. I never
yep.
noticed that.
I never used to think of it too
Yeah.
until I started looking at my repair bills for all my vehicles I've ever owned, and yeah, my odd number vehicle years were always a little bit more.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah,
So you liking the Rav? You're liking your Rav 4 then?
yeah. I wish I would have got the hybrid, but I bought it in the fall of 2020, right as the 2021s were coming out. I got the last one on the dealer lot. It was actually their dealer vehicles that had 6,000 kilometers on it. So
Mm-hmm.
I got a decent deal of it. And then that was right before uh, the big chip issue where, no dealers had cars. So I
Yeah.
pretty much got it right before, I guess you could say, the shit hit the fan.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll bring that. How did COVID go for you?
Eh,
Was it another lockdown, or was it a lockdown or anything like that?
eh, I work from home
Oh, well,
for quite a bit
hey,
of it. So
there you go. Got your own
yeah,
lockdown.
yeah. And with that, like, for my own personal computer, I have it set up for my laptop and my desktop, and then my office here, office studio, whatever you
Mm-hmm.
want to call it, music place for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a setup that I was able to hook up my work computer from because we actually just had a Surface, so just bring a docking station and two computer screens at home and is able to work from anywhere.
Oh,
So
nice,
yeah,
nice. Um, so you do edit and produce the Auto Looks podcast?
yep, I do it all.
Nice, nice. That's the same thing here, and it's been a whirlwind trying to understand editing. Like,
Yeah,
this is my first round of figuring it all out from scratch, and it's been a fun journey. I gotta say that.
yeah, it is.
Yeah. There's always something new you can learn. So where do you see the podcast going here? Next 5 years. Let's give it a 5 year jump.
5 year jump for the podcast. Well, besides what I just did last year, moving to every week
Mm-hmm.
with the podcast episodes. Future for me is probably getting into some actually doing some interviews myself with
Mm-hmm.
some people from the automotive industry. I actually have one coming up in 2 weeks
Oh,
from
nice.
some programmers actually develop some new technology for AI stuff in cars. So they
Uh,
reached out to me, so that's
we're
kind of
putting AI in cars now.
yeah. This one is this company
I
actually does the security portion so that your information doesn't get sold when your car gets sold. So it's kind of trying to
Okay.
create a security system for you so that when you sell
Okay.
your car or anything in it, nobody else can get your information. So it's
Okay. All
pretty
right.
interesting.
All right.
Yeah.
I just didn't want some face coming on my screen and start talking to me like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Then the like it's 5 in the morning. Go back to bed. Like,
Yeah. Well, it's like seeing some of the technology they got in China. They have heads up holograms in some of the vehicles now. That's cool. And I got somebody standing on my dash talking to me.
excuse
Unless
me.
it's Princess Leia, really, I don't care.
Yeah, like bring up Princess Leia, or even yeah, I'll take Chewbacca. That's fine
Yeah.
with me. You know, Pam Anderson, somebody interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's we don't need the old British lady again.
No.
So they're actually putting AIs into cars.
Yeah. Artificial intelligence, while the autonomous technology is going to be pushing us there. And that's,
Yeah, is that a part of like self driving too?
yep.
Okay, I do like the idea of self driving.
Yeah. Like when I look into stuff like Zooks and their autonomous vehicle, or even General Motors cruise system. It's
Mm-hmm.
for inner city stuff. Like you guys have probably seen with NASA getting the Canoe MPVs, and that's their first vehicle was like a dedicated vehicle for like Uber and Lyft drivers. So they could pick you up and drop you off. And the next thing is add autonomous technology. You don't need a driver, and you can send a fleet of them out there 24 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a good thing because it still gives you that ability to go from point A to point B without having to, get on public transit. So the
Yeah.
next wave of getting
Mm-hmm.
around
Yeah.
without owning a vehicle.
That would be pretty interesting.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. That whole AI scares me. It does.
yeah. Well, that's my in-laws had a one of those Google Chrome thing, or the like the Nest and that in their house, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, well, just remember it's listening to you. Of course, I have a cell phone, and I know it listens too because I get ads after I talk about something.
Yeah.
So
It'd be crazy to think that they're not listening.
yeah,
Yeah. I
I,
mean,
I my wife and I do that while we're in the vehicle. Sometimes I'll just be yelling out like, "You get that, Google?"
yeah. Like, you hear that,
No,
Siri?
you're listening.
Order me a pizza. Like,
Yeah.
um, uh, excuse me for the yawning. I'm a welder by trade, so
Okay.
it's during the summer. The welding takes the heat right at it, or takes the energy right out of you. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
That's my first job outside of college. I worked at a shop, and you see those guys during the day. Like I was only in the warehouse having to wear coveralls all day, and I'm watching the guys out on the floor doing the welding. It's like it's 30 degrees, and I'm sweating just over here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Imagine what you guys are like.
Sometimes I'll open my hood and it's ace and it's just air conditioning.
Yeah. Yeah. My
So.
dad used to say that he was a millwright, and in the wintertime, he worked in like a mining smelter, and in the converter aisle, that's where all the slag is going underneath
Mm-hmm.
in the big pots. And he's
Mm-hmm.
like, you'd be working on something, you got icicles coming from your nose, but your feet are on fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I could imagine. I could imagine. I mean, if my feet froze, I'd be out of the game. Like, I'm done. I'm cool with frozen nose sickles and everything, but
Yeah.
my feet freeze, I'm done. Um, so with the Auto Looks podcast, I am really looking forward to hearing more episodes with this. And do you have any other projects in mind?
For myself, ugh, I always have tons of projects
Mm-hmm.
on tap that I've always been working on. I had one that I've recorded. I haven't done anything with. It's been sitting around for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much just me yelling and screaming about stuff that piss you off.
Yeah.
People in bike lanes biking on the white line, or people that don't know how to use turning lanes.
Yeah.
Make me blow a gasket. Essentially, that's the name of it. But I haven't released it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was working on another project with my wife because we got wanderlust. We like to go out and explore
Mm-hmm.
all the things in and around us, and like I'm essentially at the edge of a city, in the bush, so got a lot to explore. This past weekend, we climbed the tallest hill in our city, so went up 1,600 feet up.
Nice.
Yeah,
Congratulations, man. That's
yeah,
here.
great view.
Yeah. Here in
Yeah,
Denver, they have, or it's not in Denver, it's in Colorado Springs. It's called the Manitou Incline, and it's like 2,000 or 2,000 something feet. And by the end of this thing, I was just pulling myself up this thing. It's, it's,
yeah,
you first start walking, you're like, oh man, I'm going to get up there, and halfway, like, what am I doing?
yeah,
But you climb the mountain, you feel better about yourself.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, do you have any interest in doing the okay, any interest in doing an episode about hybrids? Have you done an episode about hybrids? Oh, froze.
Came from and where it's gone
Mm-hmm.
through the creation of hybrid technology, and the fact that Toyota is still a major push into that,
Mm-hmm.
and they know that it needs to be a technology that's it's still going to be here for some time to kind of bridge that gap between our change from internal combustion to the, as I say, the alternative fuel sources of the future. I don't
Mm-hmm.
100% say electricity because there is also hydrogen as well.
Mm-hmm. Do you see any major leading industry car brands moving over to hybrid or hydrogen?
Toyota, Hyundai. I actually have documentation from years ago when I reached out to car companies when I was like 15,
Mm-hmm.
talking about Mercedes and BMW when they worked on their stuff in the 90s. So they're getting back into that. Theirs is just, there's not a big government push behind it.
Mm-hmm.
The setting it up is you got to do it your own, all on your own. And that's what Toyota's been trying to do. And then it's expensive to get into right now. Um, I see the push for it coming in transport right now, just because electricity is great, but the amount of power you need to tow massive amounts of weight behind you is it's a lot easier with hydrogen.
Mm-hmm.
And then for myself,
Why is it a lot easier with hydrogen?
hydrogen is essentially just like internal combustion engine. Put the gas in, and it's just straight power. You
Mm-hmm.
still need your fuel cell stack, but it doesn't weigh as much as your battery because when you look at it, if you're only allowed a certain amount of weight on the highway per transport, batteries to pull that amount of weight weigh so much, and the amount of weight and the amount of battery storage you need takes away from what you could transport as well. And
Mm-hmm.
then batteries degrade over time as well, a lot quicker than hydrogen fuel cell stacks.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Interesting. Have you heard of the God? A girlfriend just brought it up this past weekend. Liquid gas.
Oh, nanoflow cell,
Yeah.
this weird like red and blue liquid that go in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have
Yeah,
you?
I've been hearing about them for well over a decade since I started, and they're just coming to the States because they set up their shop in was New Jersey, I think, their
Yeah.
American site.
Yeah. Like she was
It's
telling.
a it's a neat technology,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't have enough push behind it.
Yeah. So what's the technology all about?
That one is not one I know a whole heck of a lot about.
Mm-hmm.
It's using salt water through an electrolysis system, and that's pretty much what I've read into and what I can remember right now.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. She was telling me about some of the cars. Okay, so the girlfriend's from Kazakhstan, and she was telling me that there's a bunch of cars moving over to the liquid gas, but you can't have it in the heat for so long because it just
Okay.
it ruins temperature wise and things can go bad. And I was like, well, if it's cheaper, I guess, because $4 a gallon is kind of killing everybody. Like,
Yeah.
so I mean, hey, we'll see what that technology brings us.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of them out there. Like I always said, my biggest push for my difference between hydrogen and electric and it always was is, the aftermarket industry.
Mm-hmm.
With EVs, you can only do so much to make them go faster or look better. But with hydrogen, it's similar to that of internal combustion engine. You can do so much more to create, the gearhead technology behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And, by going just straight to electric, that's, yeah, you get street racers off the street, but it's a culture that's been there for a long time. There's always going to be people that want to do it. So,
I'm pretty sure they'll figure out how to make a street racer out of an electric vehicle.
yeah, you already can. It's besides aero effects, bigger batteries, better cooling systems to keep them within reason or within proper temperature so they can operate at optimal.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Yeah.
start getting things like that. Like unplugged performance in the States is one of the few that gets into making, strictly just Teslas now, more for the aftermarket industry.
Mm-hmm. I mean, those Teslas are pretty quick on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. 0 to
Yeah.
60 in what, 2.5 seconds?
Yep.
That's that's pretty good for an electric car, if you ask me.
Oh yeah.
So, would you would you ever consider owning an electric vehicle?
For where I am, getting in and around town is okay.
Yeah.
Long trips for me, because like what, hour and a half east to a major city, 3 hours west, and 4 hours south. So for me, long distance travel and electric really isn't the greatest for me now. But in and around town, like I told my wife, I actually looked into. I was considering buying the new fuel motorcycle for the summertime
Mm-hmm.
because they just released that. Was it 2 weeks ago? That was Eric Buell from old
Mm-hmm.
Buell Motorcycles. Got his own electric bike, and I thought, that's something I can literally just plug into my garage, and it'd be great for the summertime. Go back and forth, and a lot cheaper than
Yeah.
my other vehicle. So,
Yeah. I would consider it. Like I said, I think that Cybertruck is a sexy looking truck.
oh yeah,
For as basic as the outside looks, it's just so cool looking.
yeah,
And I'd love to see where they take that thing.
yep.
So yeah. And well, Everett, where can we find you?
Well, you can find me lots of places. Uh, I post my updates every week for the podcast, and you can find it through Autolooks on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Tumblr. I still keep a Reddit account kicking around.
Mm-hmm. I'll make sure
Uh,
I'll make sure to put all these links in the show notes for you.
okay.
So, and is there any big shout outs you want to give? Anything you want to plug real quick?
Well, I guess my wife for standing behind me, keeping me going, and
Mm-hmm.
not telling me that I'm wasting my time like a lot of other people I know.
Yeah.
And
I bet. Yep.
putting up with me spending 2 hours a night and getting up early and being groggy most of the day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's besides that, uh, man, that's pretty much it right now. I guess give a shout out to TPA for helping me out with some of their stuff and getting some information.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Awesome. Well, Everett, I do want to thank you for coming on the podcast, and I look forward to many more episodes of the Autolooks podcast.
Thank you.
You have a good evening, sir.
You too.
Bye.